So this video is in collaboration with Charlie over at Top 10s, and we definitely recommend you watch his video on 10 of the worst doctors ever after this video. We'll include a link to his video at the end, so definitely go check it out. Without any further ado, here are 10 of the creepiest vintage medical practices ever devised. Number 10. Hot iron for hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids are swollen veins at the lowest part of the rectum and anus. If you happen to be one of the unlucky fellows who suffered from hemorrhoids, you would be sent to the ancient monks, who would put a red-hot iron into your anus. Nasty, but the less painful alternative was to go and sit on St. Fierce's famous rock, the spot where the 7th century Irish monk was miraculously cured of hemorrhoids. Number 9. Lobotomies. Lobotomies were a popular fad for the first half of the 20th century and were floated as a cure for pretty much any mental issue you could name, from conditions as serious as schizophrenia to something as mild as depression or anxiety. The operation involved placing an ice pick behind the eye socket and breaking through the thin layer of bone by applying a hammer into the front lobes. Gross. Number 8. Hemiglossectomy. What's the best treatment for stuttering? Doctors in the 18th and 19th centuries often cut half of the stutterer's tongue. Hemiglossectomy is still used today, but as a treatment for oral cancer, and now it's done under general anesthesia, which wasn't the case back in the day. The pain was only one problem. If the treatment didn't work, some patients bled to death. Number 7. Eye cataract surgery. During the Middle Ages, cataract surgery was performed with a thick needle. The procedure involved pushing the cornea to the back of the eye. Of course, eye surgery changed rapidly once Islamic medicine began to influence European practices. Rather than a needle, a metal hypodermic syringe was inserted through the sclera, the white part of the eye, and then used to extract cataracts via suction. Number 6. Whirling chairs. Between 1850 and 1900, in an attempt to stop the practice of restraining the mentally ill and locking them in dark cells, doctors turned to the method they genuinely thought would help. They strapped patients into a chair and spun them until they lost consciousness. They used a simple chair, but attached to a lever system so as to spin the person around, believing it would drive the person back to sanity. Number 5. The electrical impotence cure. As fascination with electricity was on the rise, many medical practitioners turned to it so as to solve impotence in men. This is actually done by shocking the man's penis, which was highly believed that it would provide sufficient energy to the man's body. What they avoided telling their patients, though, was how painful the exercise was and that the intended results were not achievable. Number 4. Trepanation. Trepanation involved the boring of a hole into the skull and thus exposing the dura mater, the outer membrane of the brain. It was used in the alleviation of pressure and to treat health problems localized within the head. It was thought to cure epilepsy, migraines, skull fractures, and mental disorders. However, such exposure of the brain to airborne germs would often be fatal. The most horrible thing is that anesthetics were not used. Number 3. Bile enemas. Enemas in medieval times were performed by devices called clysters. Wealthy people used them to treat constipation as well as a variety of other complaints. A typical clyster might contain warm water mixed with salt, baking soda, or soap. The clyster is inserted into the anus and the fluid released into the colon. In high society, enemas became enormously popular, with aristocratic hypochondriacs taking several scented enemas a day. During his time on the throne, Louis XIV of France is said to have had more than 2,000 enemas. Number 2. The tobacco enema. It was believed that tobacco smoke warmed up by a person's body just before or immediately after death could jump-start the system. Doctors claimed that the practice could combat typhoid and even headaches. It was later discovered that the damage inflicted was worse than even smoking tobacco and was therefore discontinued. It was majorly used during the 19th century. Number 1. Scoliosis treatment. Scoliosis is the abnormal twisting and curvature of the spine, mainly caused by the reduction in bone density. In the 1800s, a method of self-suspension was developed and used in the treatment of scoliosis. The method involved binding the patient and hanging them by their wrists so as to straighten the spine. Don't forget to head on over to Charlie's channel and check out his similar video on the 10 worst doctors ever. Links, of course, are below in the description. Thanks for watching, guys.